Union Station during rush hour always had that electric buzz. Shoes slapping floors, Kesha Williams wove through the crowd, clutching her worn resume folder like it was the last piece of hope she had left. This was it, her dream job interview. Then she saw him. An elderly man, slumped on a rain-slicked bench, clutching his chest with trembling fingers. People rushed past like they didn't even see him. Kesha's train was leaving in 30 seconds. This interview could change everything, she whispered to herself. Rent was due. She couldn't afford another setback, not now, not after so many years of scraping by. But the old man looked up, eyes wide with fear. Please, help me, he rasped. Kesha froze. She looked at him, looked at her train, looked at him again. Her throat tightened. Her pulse kicked up. Her future pulled one way. Her heart pulled another. Final boarding! The conductor shouted. The old man tried to stand but nearly collapsed. His hand clawed the air like he was reaching for something, someone. That was all it took. Kesha dropped her resume, bolted toward him, and knelt at his side. Sir, hey, stay with me, she said, brushing wet hair off his forehead. I got you. Keep breathing, okay? Behind her, the doors closed with a hiss. The train rumbled away without her. Her interview vanished with it. The old man's breathing stuttered. His skin went gray. His eyes started to flutter. Oh no, she whispered, fear shooting through her. Come on, sir. Keep breathing, please. I'm right here. She dialed 911 with shaking hands and followed every instruction the dispatcher threw at her. Rain soaked her jacket, her knees, her hair, but she didn't move. Not an inch. She didn't know this man. She didn't know his story, but she knew one thing. Leaving him wasn't an option. Little did Kesha know. The stranger gasping for air on that rain-drenched bench wasn't just any man. And missing that train. It was about to redirect her entire life in a way she never could have imagined. The paramedics arrived in a blur of flashing lights and quick voices. Kesha stayed kneeling beside the man, her hands shaking but steady enough to keep him grounded. Ma'am, what's his condition? The lead EMT asked. He started clutching his chest, breathing got shallow. He was confused, like he didn't even know where he was, Kesha answered, brushing rain off her face. His name's Harold, I think. He said it kinda soft. The EMTs exchanged a look. They moved fast. Oxygen mask, vitals, lifting him to the stretcher. But Harold wouldn't let go of her hand. Don't leave me, he whispered, voice raspy as gravel. I won't, Kesha promised, even though the words twisted a knife inside her. She should be halfway to her interview by now. She should be focused on her future. But she couldn't walk away from a man who looked this scared and this alone. Are you family? The EMT asked. Kesha shook her head. No, ma'am, just someone who couldn't walk past him. Then hop in. He's calmer with you here. And just like that, Kesha found herself in the back of an ambulance barreling through downtown Chicago, sirens wailing above them. Rain streaked across the windows, blurring the city lights into smears of silver and gold. Harold's breathing evened out slightly. His fingers loosened around her hand, though he still held on like she was the only familiar thing in the world. You're okay, she said softly. I'm right here. Her phone vibrated. PT Industries, 2 missed calls. Her stomach dropped. She didn't answer, didn't even think about it. Because right now, someone needed her more. At the hospital, they wheeled Harold into emergency care. Kesha waited alone in a cold metal chair, soaked clothes clinging to her skin, heart pounding with the weight of what she'd lost. After nearly 2 hours, a doctor emerged. He's stable, he said with a tired smile. An anxiety-induced cardiac episode. He's asking for the young woman who stayed with him, Kesha blinked. Me? Yes, he's been calling you his guardian angel. Guardian angel? Her? She stepped into Harold's room, expecting a frail old man, but what she saw made her breath hitch. His color was back, his eyes were clear, and the gratitude in them was deep enough to drown in. You saved my life, he whispered. Kesha shook her head. I just tried to help. No. His voice was firmer now. You did what everyone else chose not to do. But as Kesha stood there, unaware of the truth behind the man in the hospital bed, She had no idea her act of kindness had just echoed straight into the heart of $1 billion empire. Harold's hospital room hummed with soft beeps and the faint scent of antiseptic. He looked far different from the fragile man on that rain-soaked bench. His breathing had steadied, color returning to his cheeks, and now he sat propped up in bed like a man reclaiming his sense of self. Kesha took a hesitant step inside. "There you are," Harold said, his voice low but surprisingly steady. "My angel in the storm." Kesha gave a shy smile. "I'm just glad you're okay, sir." He studied her with intent, like he was filing away every detail. His eyes weren't confused anymore. They were sharp, intelligent, aware. There was something about him that felt familiar, though she couldn't place why. "Do you know how many people walked past me?" Harold asked softly. "At least a dozen, maybe more. And yet you—" He gestured at her soaked clothes, her trembling hands, her tired eyes. "You stayed." Kesha shrugged, trying to play it off. "Anybody with a conscience would have helped. I'm no hero." "Her?" Harold gave a small, knowing smile. "You'd be surprised how rare kindness is when people are in a hurry." Kesha looked down at her hands. She didn't want praise. She didn't want thanks. She just wished her stomach didn't twist when she thought about the interview she'd missed. "So," Harold asked, tilting his head, "what exactly were you running to before I stopped you?" "Something important." Kesha hesitated. She didn't want to make him feel guilty, but she also didn't want to lie. "I had a job interview," she admitted. "A big one. Could have changed things for me and my brother. And you missed it because of me." "No," she said quickly. "I missed it because you needed help." Harold's expression softened, something fatherly, something heavy with gratitude. "What company?" he asked casually. "PT Industries." Harold blinked. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, recognition, then vanished so fast she wondered if she imagined it. He leaned forward slightly. "And what job?" "Receptionist." She almost whispered it. "Steady pay, good benefits. Enough to get my brother off our couch and maybe into his own room." Harold nodded slowly. "So that's the kind of woman you are? You build others before yourself." She blushed at the compliment. "I just do what I can." Before she could say more, the door swung open. A man in a tailored suit, mid-40s, confident posture, sharp jawline, stepped inside with urgency. "Dad! Thank God you're—" He froze when he saw Kesha. Harold smiled. "David, meet the young lady who saved my life." David's eyes widened, respect washing over his face. "Miss, thank you, truly." Dad, David, saved his life. A strange realization tugged at Kesha's mind. Who exactly was this man? But Kesha wouldn't get that answer today. Because the truth about Harold, and the empire behind his name, was bigger than anything she'd ever dared to imagine. David stepped forward, gratitude radiating from him like warmth. He shook Kesha's hand with both of his, firm and sincere. "I do not know what we would have done if you hadn't stopped," he said. "Dad was supposed to be at a very important meeting. When he didn't show, we panicked." Harold chuckled softly. Important indeed. Something in his tone sounded layered, like he wasn't just talking about a meeting, more like a world-shifting responsibility. Kesha glanced between them. "I didn't mean to cause trouble for anybody. I just—" "You didn't cause trouble," David interrupted gently. "You prevented a disaster." Kesha blinked. "How?" Harold exchanged a glance with his son. A silent conversation passed between them. Hesitation, pride, something cautious. Then Harold said, "Kesha, I wasn't at Union Station for a stroll. I was on my way to finalize a major corporate decision." David added, "A merger worth nearly $500 million. Kesha's mouth fell open. $500 million? She felt suddenly lightheaded. "I got disoriented," Harold said quietly. "New medication, stress, age catching up, I suppose." "And if you hadn't found him," David added, "no one would have known where he was." Harold squeezed her hand gently. "You saved my life, child. And you saved far more than that." Kesha took a slow breath. Her world felt tilted, like she'd stepped into a story too big for her. She swallowed hard and nodded toward the leather wallet on Harold's bedside table. A gold monogram gleamed on the corner. HP. "I never asked your last name," she said softly. "I just followed instinct." Harold paused. Then, gently, almost apologetically, he said, "Peaton." The name hit her like a gust of cold wind. Peaton. Peaton Technologies. The towering building downtown she'd walked past every day for years. The company that practically ran half the city. David stepped closer. "My father founded the company." Kesha's jaw dropped. "You mean, you're that Peaton?" Harold nodded. An old man who forgot to slow down. Kesha stumbled back a step. Everything suddenly felt unreal. She thought she'd helped a stranger on a bench, not the man whose decisions shaped entire industries. "So," Harold continued gently, "about that missed interview." Kesha's stomach twisted. "I'm sure they filled the spot hours ago." David shook his head. "No, trust me, I think we can arrange something." Kesha frowned, unsure what to think. She didn't want pity. She didn't want special treatment. She wanted to earn her place. Harold could see all of that written across her face. "You'll get your chance, Kesha," he said softly, "but not in the way you expect." Because the interview she missed wasn't to the opportunity she was meant to have. Harold Peaton had something far bigger in mind. Something that would turn her entire future upside down. The doctor left the room to update Harold's chart, and suddenly the hospital felt quieter, almost too quiet. Rain tapped against the window like a steady drumbeat, and the fluorescent lights hummed above them. Kesha stood there, still trying to absorb the truth. She had saved Harold Peaton, founder of Peaton Technologies, a man who could buy half the city with pocket change if he wanted to. Kesha rubbed her temples. "Mr. Peaton, I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were." Harold smiled gently. "Good. That's what makes what you did so special. You helped a stranger, not a CEO." David nodded. "Most folks would have walked right past. Happens every day." Kesha swallowed, trying to steady her voice. "I don't want anything from you. I didn't stop because of all this." Harold chuckled, the sound warm and comforting. "If you wanted something from me, you would have let that train carry you to your interview." Kesha sighed, hugging her thin jacket around her. "My brother's counting on me. That job meant stability, you know. A real shot." "Well," David said, "Dad might have a better shot for you." Kesha stepped back, shaking her head. "I don't want handouts." "Good," Harold replied. "Neither do I. I want justice." "Justice?" she echoed. Harold leaned in, voice low. "I want to reward good people, people who act with heart, even when no one's looking." Kesha didn't know what to say. Her throat tightened at the idea of someone finally seeing her. Beyond poverty, beyond struggle, beyond the endless grind of double shifts. Harold noticed the exhaustion etched into her face, the worry lines on her forehead, the worn shoes that had walked too many miles. "Kesha," he said softly, "may I ask, what's your life like right now?" She hesitated, then answered honestly. "I work mornings at the diner, nights cleaning offices. My brother stays up studying until I get home, but he tries not to fall asleep hungry." Her voice cracked slightly. "We make it work. Barely." David exchanged a look with Harold, one Kesha didn't understand yet. "You're doing more than making it," Harold said gently. "You were surviving a world that isn't built for people who don't start with silver spoons." Kesha wiped her eyes quickly. "I'm fine, really." "I know you are," Harold replied softly. "But maybe you don't have to be fine all on your own anymore." Before she could respond, Harold reached for something on his bedside table, a sleek card case made of black leather. He pulled out a single card and extended it toward her. "My personal number," he said. "Use it. No assistance, no waiting. Straight to me." Kesha didn't take it immediately. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because," Harold said, "you did something money can't buy. You cared." But Kesha had no idea that the business card now trembling in her hand wasn't just a number. It was the first key to a future she never dreamed she deserved. The cab ride home felt surreal. The city lights blurred past Kesha's window, shimmering through raindrops like streaks of gold and sapphire. The car heater hummed softly, warming her soaked clothes as she clutched Harold's business card like it might vanish if she blinked. His name gleamed in silver letters, Harold Peaton, Chairman Emeritus, and beneath it, a direct phone number. No extensions, no gatekeepers. It felt unreal. It felt too big for her small, messy life. When the taxi stopped outside her apartment building, Kesha hesitated before paying. The ride cost almost $25, money she desperately needed, money she really didn't have. She bit her lip as she handed the cash over, silently promising herself she'd figure it out later. She trudged up the stairs, the hallway light flickering with its usual stubbornness. Jamal sat at the flimsy kitchen table, textbooks open, highlighter uncapped, face drooping from exhaustion. The moment he saw her, he straightened. "Sis, how'd it go? Did you get the job? Did they like you?" Kesha sank into the chair opposite him. "I didn't make it to the interview." Jamal's face fell. "What happened? You okay?" She nodded slowly. "Yeah. There was this old man at the station. He needed help, real help, chest pains, confused, and I couldn't just leave him." Jamal leaned back, processing that. "You missed the interview for him?" "I did." He didn't look angry, didn't look disappointed. He just shook his head with a soft smile. "That's you, Kesha. You always do the right thing, even when it costs you." Kesha exhaled shakily. "I hope doing the right thing will pay a bill one day." Jamal reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "It will. I know it." His confidence was a lifeline she hadn't realized she needed. Later, after Jamal went to bed, Kesha finally took a moment to look up Peaton Technologies on her old phone. The cracked screen loaded slowly, revealing article after article. Harold Peaton, the titan behind Chicago's tech empire. One of the most influential business founders of the century, net worth estimated $50 billion. Kesha nearly dropped the phone. $50 billion. She sat back, stunned. What on earth? Her eyes drifted back to the silver-lettered business card resting on her palm. She wondered why someone so powerful would give her, a diner waitress with overdue bills and thrift store shoes, access to him. Before she could make sense of anything, her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Kesha, it's Harold. I wanted to be sure you arrived home safely. Rest well. Tomorrow may bring surprises." Her breath caught. Tomorrow? Surprises? And Harold was right. Because when tomorrow arrived, Kesha Williams would walk into a building that would change not just her life, but the future of an entire empire. The next morning, Kesha stood outside Peaton Technologies' towering glass building. The one she had walked past 1,000 times, always imagining what life looked like inside those walls. Today, the reflection staring back at her in the glass doors felt like someone else. Someone braver, someone standing on the edge of something she didn't quite understand yet. She smoothed her borrowed blazer, the one she used only for special interviews, and stepped inside. The lobby was a world of polished marble floors, modern art pieces, and hushed conversations. People in tailored suits moved with purpose, tapping badges, checking tablets. Everything felt bigger, shinier, richer than anything she'd ever been around. Kesha approached the front desk, hands slightly trembling. "Hi, I'm here for the rescheduled interview. Kesha Williams." The receptionist looked up, eyes widening with recognition. "Oh, yes, Miss Williams, please follow me. They're expecting you." Expecting her. She'd missed the interview yesterday. Why would anyone be expecting her now? The receptionist led her past rows of glass offices, through a corridor lined with portraits of founders and innovators. And then, Kesha froze. Hanging on the largest wall was a portrait she instantly recognized. Harold Peaton, founder, visionary, legacy. There he was, same silver hair, same calm eyes, but in the portrait he wore the expression of a man who built empires. She stared at it, her breath hitching. She had seen that face just hours ago, drenched in rain, frightened, clutching her hand like a lifeline. "Miss Williams," the receptionist said gently. "This way." They stepped into a private elevator. The doors closed. The ascent began. Her heart thudded. 15th floor, executive wing. When the elevator doors opened, Kesha stepped into a space that looked too elegant to be real. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, mahogany doors, polished brass accents. "Right through that office," the receptionist said. Kesha walked in and froze. Sitting behind a massive mahogany desk, wearing a crisp suit and the calmest smile she'd ever seen, was Harold Peaton. He stood slowly, steady and strong, not at all the fragile man from yesterday. "There she is," Harold said warmly. "My guardian angel." Kesha's mouth opened, then closed. "Mr. Peaton, what are you doing here?" He chuckled. "My dear, this is my company." David stepped forward from beside him. "And today, you're not here for a receptionist interview." Kesha blinked. "I'm not?" Harold shook his head. "No, Kesha, you're here because we already know who you are, and we know what kind of heart you carry." Her pulse raced. "What does that mean?" she whispered. Harold gently motioned her to sit. "It means," he said, "we have something else in mind for you." What Kesha didn't know was that the offer waiting for her in that office was bigger than any job she had ever dared to dream of, and it would change her future forever. The room felt impossibly quiet as Harold folded his hands on the desk, studying Kesha with the same focus she imagined he once used during billion-dollar negotiations. David stood beside him with a folder in hand. Thick, official, important-looking. "Before we talk about anything else," Harold began, "I want to thank you again. People think billionaires are surrounded by helpers. Truth is, when you're old and confused in a train station, nobody sees wealth. They just see a burden." Kesha shook her head. "You weren't a burden. You were a person in trouble. That's all I saw." Harold smiled like those words meant more than she realized. "Exactly. And that's why you're sitting here today." David opened the folder and slid it across the desk toward her. Kesha stared at it, but didn't touch it. "We don't want you as a receptionist," Harold said. "You are capable of far more than answering phones and making coffee." Kesha felt her face heat. "But I don't have experience." "You have what experience can't teach," Harold said. "Integrity, compassion, steadiness under pressure. You didn't even hesitate when you thought I was just an old man with no one to help him." David chimed in. "Dad hasn't been impressed by someone this quickly in years." Kesha swallowed hard. "So, what are you offering?" Harold leaned forward. "Harold, I want you to become my personal executive assistant. You'll work directly with me, learn from me, grow under my guidance." Kesha blinked at him, hard. "That can't be real," she whispered. "Oh, it's very real," Harold said, amused. "And yes, you can say no, but I hope you won't." David tapped the folder gently. "Starting salary, $85,000, full benefits, bonuses, retirement plan." Kesha's lips parted in disbelief. 85,000. She could barely breathe. That was more money than she'd ever seen in a year, more money than her mom had made working 3 jobs. Harold wasn't finished, and, he added softly, "I want to sponsor your brother's education through our Peaton Foundation, full scholarship, any university he chooses." The room spun. Jamal. Her baby brother. A real chance at life. Paid. In full. Kesha covered her mouth with trembling hands. Tears filled her eyes. "Mr. Peaton, I don't even know what to say." "Say you'll let us help," Harold replied gently. "And say you'll step into the kind of future you deserve." Kesha blinked away tears, voice quivering. "Why me?" Harold's answer was simple. "Because kindness deserves more than gratitude. It deserves opportunity." And as Kesha stared at the folder that could rewrite her family's entire story, she didn't yet realize this new position was only the beginning of her rise inside Peaton Technologies. Kesha sat frozen, hands trembling over the folder, like it might explode if she touched it. Harold waited patiently, watching her expression shift from disbelief to shock to something close to fear. I don't want to disappoint you," she whispered. Harold smiled gently. Let me tell you something, Kesha. You could work here for 50 years and you still wouldn't disappoint me. You've already shown more character in a single moment than some executives show in an entire career. Kesha swallowed hard. But I didn't finish college. I don't know anything about corporate stuff. Half the time I'm barely keeping my own life together. That's exactly why you'll succeed, Harold replied. You understand real people, real struggle, real life. That's something you can't teach in business school. David stepped forward. And you won't be alone. We'll help you every step of the way. Kesha stared between them. Two powerful men, offering her a seat at a table she never even dreamed she could approach. Her memories flashed, mopping floors at 2 a.m., counting crumpled tip money, Jamal asleep on the couch with textbooks on his chest, the constant weight of barely scraping by. And now, this. Can I think about it? She asked softly. Harold nodded. Take a day. Take 2. But before you decide, come with me. David opened the door, and Harold motioned her to walk with him. They moved down a hallway lined with photos of community programs, scholarship recipients, and charitable projects Peton Technologies had funded over the years. Harold stopped at one photo. A young man receiving a scholarship check, wearing a suit 2 sizes too big, but smiling like the world had finally opened for him. That was me, Harold said quietly. When I was 19. My family was broke. Someone gave me a chance. That chance built everything you see here. He turned to face her. And now it's my turn to give someone else that door. Kesha's breath hitched. She realized suddenly, painfully, that Harold didn't just see her as an act of kindness. He saw her as someone capable of greatness, someone worth investing in, someone worth lifting. She looked up at him, trembling. Mr. Peton, I'm honored. Truly, I just need to make sure I can do this. Harold placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Oh, Kesha, you've already done the hardest part. You followed your conscience. Everything else is teachable. Kesha inhaled, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, burning, stubborn hope. But what Kesha didn't know was that accepting, or even considering, the offer would pull her into a world of power, responsibility, and challenges she never saw coming. Kesha left the office with her heart pounding, the folder heavy in her hands. The elevator ride down felt endless, her reflection staring back at her in the mirrored walls, eyes wide, breath short, unsure whether she was dreaming. Outside, the drizzle had stopped. Sunlight pushed through the clouds, glinting against the building's glass like a sign she wasn't sure she deserved. Her phone buzzed. Jamal, how's it going? Did you talk to them? Kesha texted back, You won't believe it, I'm on my way home. She didn't want to explain through a screen. She needed to see his face. The bus ride felt surreal. People chatted, scrolled, argued on calls. But she sat still, clutching Harold's business card and the folder like sacred relics. Every bump in the road reminded her that she was balancing between 2 worlds, the life she knew and the life waiting for her. When she walked through the apartment door, Jamal practically jumped up. Well, what did they say? Did they offer you another interview? She laughed, a nervous, shaky laugh that surprised even her. Oh, they offered me something. But it wasn't an interview. Jamal frowned. What do you mean? She handed him the folder. He opened it, stared, blinked, and then slowly sat down as if his knees stopped working. 85,000, he shouted. Sis, what? And what's this, full scholarship for me, for real? Kesha nodded, tears swelling. For real. Any school you want. Jamal covered his mouth. He looked at her with eyes full of disbelief, gratitude, and something deeper, pride. Sis, you did this. You changed everything. No, she whispered. Harold did. No, Jamal insisted, shaking his head. You saved that man. When everybody else walked by, you stopped. You brought this blessing into our lives. His words cracked her open just a little. That night, after Jamal went back to studying, this time with a fire she hadn't seen in him before, Kesha sat on her bed, staring at the folder again. The offer scared her, thrilled her, humbled her. She didn't feel ready, But maybe nobody ever feels ready for the moment their life changes. Her phone buzzed. Harold. If you need advice or reassurance or simply a listening ear, call me. No pressure. Just support. She typed back, Thank you. I'll let you know soon. But deep down, she sensed the truth. Her answer was already forming. And little did Kesha know, accepting Harold's offer would be the easiest part. What came next would test her courage, reshape her identity, and introduce her to a level of influence she never imagined stepping into. The next morning, Kesha woke up before the sun. She barely slept. Her mind had replayed Harold's offer 1,000 times. Every doubt, every hope, every fear twisted together like a knot in her stomach. She made coffee, though her hands trembled so much she spilled a little on the counter. While Jamal got ready for school, she quietly ironed her blouse, brushed her curls into a neat bun, and tried to breathe through the nerves crashing inside her. When Jamal left, he paused at the door. You got this, sis. No matter what you choose, you got this. His confidence warmed her like sunlight through frosted glass. By 9 a.m., Kesha stood again in front of Patton Technologies. The difference today was subtle, but she felt it. Yesterday, she came as a woman filled with doubt. Today, she came as a woman standing on the edge of a decision that could rewrite her life. She stepped inside. Same marble floors, same clean scent of polished surfaces and expensive perfume. But this time, people looked at her with recognition, almost respect. The receptionist greeted her. Miss Williams, Mr. Payton is waiting for you. Kesha inhaled deeply. Okay, I'm ready. When she entered Harold's office, he turned from the window where he'd been looking out over the city. There you are, he said warmly. How did you sleep? Barely, she admitted with a small smile. That's normal, he chuckled. Big decisions rarely let the mind rest. She sat across from him, folding her hands in her lap. Mr. Payton, I thought a lot about your offer, and I'm scared. I've never worked in a place like this. I don't know how to fit in. Harold's voice softened. Kesha, listen to me. You're not meant to fit into the old mold. You're meant to reshape it. Her breath caught. And another thing, he continued. Being afraid doesn't mean you're not ready. Sometimes it means you're standing in front of the exact door you're supposed to walk through. Those words loosened the knot in her stomach. Kesha exhaled slowly. Okay, then, I'm saying yes. I accept. Harold's smile spread wide. Good. Then your journey begins today. David stepped into the room, carrying a sleek badge and a welcome folder. Welcome to Patton Technologies, Kesha. We're honored to have you. As they handed her the badge with her name printed in bold letters, Kesha Williams, Executive Suite, her hands trembled. She'd never held anything that made her feel this seen. Shall we begin your first tour? Harold asked. Kesha stood tall, feeling something new in her chest. Strength. But as Kesha stepped into her new role, she had no idea that behind the polished doors of Patton Technologies, powerful forces were already watching her, and not everyone was happy about Harold's choice. David led the way through the executive floor, showing Kesha meeting rooms, break areas, administrative spaces, and departments she'd only ever heard about on TV. Legal, security, public relations, strategic development. Everyone she passed stared at her, some with polite curiosity, and some with thinly veiled suspicion. This is where our senior board meets, David explained. And down this hall, a woman in a sharp gray suit stepped into their path. Kesha Williams? She asked, raising a perfectly shaped eyebrow. Yes? Kesha replied. I'm Marlene Wentworth, Chief Operating Officer. Her tone wasn't warm. It was cool, clipped, like someone assessing a stain on the carpet. Kesha extended her hand. It's nice to meet you. Marlene shook it lightly, then let go as if she'd touched something too human. I wasn't informed we were hiring new executive support. Dad made the call, David said firmly. Marlene's eyes flickered toward him, then back to Kesha. I see. And what prior corporate experience do you have, Miss Williams? Kesha felt heat creep up her neck, but she kept her voice steady. None, but I learn fast. Just one syllable. Frosty, sharp, dismissive. Marlene nodded tightly. Well, I hope this arrangement doesn't interfere with our operations. She turned to leave, heels clicking sharply against the marble. Good luck. When she disappeared around the corner, David muttered under his breath. Don't mind her. She thinks every new face might threaten her power. But why would I be a threat? Kesha asked. David looked at her for a long moment. Because you didn't come through the usual doors, he said. People like Marlene only respect ladder climbers, not people who take elevators straight to the top. Kesha stared at him. But I didn't take any elevator. I helped someone. And that scares them, David replied. Because real kindness, it's rare up here, and rare things change the rules. As they continued the tour, Kesha could feel the eyes on her. Some curious, some cold, some quietly approving. She wasn't naive. She knew walking into a billion-dollar environment with no experience would rattle people. But she hadn't come to replace anyone. She'd come because a man she helped believed she deserved a chance. Later, when Harold joined them in the orientation room, he saw the worry on her face. Ah, he said knowingly. You met Marlene? Kesha nodded. She doesn't seem thrilled. Harold chuckled. Marlene isn't thrilled by anything that doesn't involve numbers rising on a spreadsheet. Don't take it personally. Stay the course. Those words settled warmly in her chest. By the time the tour ended, Kesha felt overwhelmed, but also strangely grounded. She wasn't here by accident. She earned her seat by doing something no resume could measure. But soon, Kesha would learn that stepping into Harold's world didn't just bring new opportunities. It also awakened old rivalries, and one of them had already set its sights on her. Kesha's first week at Peyton Technologies passed in a blur. Early mornings, reviewing Harold's schedule, organizing files, shadowing meetings, learning corporate language she'd never heard before. Every night she came home exhausted, but it was a different kind of tired. Not the bone-deep ache of cleaning floors at midnight, but the fulfilling hum of stepping into a new world. But not everyone welcomed her. Whispers followed her in the hallways. Who is she? Harold hired her personally? She didn't even interview. How is that fair? Kesha tried to ignore them, but the tension grew thicker each day, especially with Marlene, who seemed to watch her like a hawk, waiting for her to fail. One afternoon, while reviewing Harold's messages, Kesha overheard two executives talking near the door. She's totally inexperienced. Harold's losing his judgment, and putting her in the executive suite? That's ridiculous. Kesha's stomach plummeted. When they walked away, she sank into her chair, fighting the sting in her chest. Maybe she didn't belong here. Maybe she was just fooling herself. A soft knock broke her thoughts. Harold stood in the doorway. Walk with me, Kesha. They moved to the quiet rooftop garden, a hidden sanctuary overlooking the city. The wind brushed her cheeks, and the scent of fresh soil mixed with distant traffic. I can tell when someone is carrying a weight, Harold said. Kesha swallowed. I hear what people say. They think I don't deserve this job. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this world. Harold turned to her, eyes kind and steady. Kesha, don't you dare shrink now. You've climbed harder mountains than this building. You faced poverty, worked 2 jobs, raised a young man into a brilliant student, and you still had enough heart to save a stranger. Her eyes watered. But they don't see that. Then let them underestimate you, Harold said simply, because while they're watching you for flaws, you'll be quietly rising above every one of them. His voice softened. Greatness rarely enters through the front door. It enters quietly, through people who never imagined they belonged in the first place. Kesha inhaled deeply, letting the words settle like steady ground beneath her feet. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. I'll grow. I won't let fear make my decisions. Harold smiled. That's the spirit. Now come, there's something I want to show you. They went back inside and headed toward a sealed conference room. When David opened the door, Kesha froze. Inside were documents, blueprints, binders, an entire future project. Harold turned to her. This will be your first major assignment. Her heart thundered. But Kesha had no idea that what waited inside that conference room wouldn't just challenge her. It would become the moment the entire company realized exactly who she was meant to be. The room was filled with senior board members, charts projected on the wall, and thick folders labeled Peton Community Initiative, 2030 Plan. Harold took his seat at the head of the table and motioned for Kesha to join him. Board members exchanged immediate glances. Marlene's lips tightened. "Sir, why is she here?" Harold didn't blink. "Because she's my new executive assistant and she has insight none of you have." A hush fell over the room. Kesha sat slowly, pulse racing, hands slick with nerves. Harold began. "I've spent decades building technology that shapes industries, but now I want to build something that shapes lives. Affordable education, job access, community reinvestment, and Kesha," he looked at her, "is going to help lead the outreach portion." Murmurs erupted. Marlene scoffed. "With respect, sir, she lacks the credentials." David shot back. "Credentials don't determine heart." Harold raised a hand and the room fell silent again. "Kesha," he said, "tell them about your experiences." Her mouth went dry. She wasn't prepared for this, she wasn't trained for presentations, but she remembered Harold's rooftop words. She rose slowly. "When you grow up in neighborhoods like mine," she began, "you learn fast that opportunity doesn't knock. It whispers. And you have to chase it, even if you're tired, scared, or broke." Several board members leaned in. "I've seen kids drop out not because they're lazy, but because they had to work to keep the lights on. I've seen brilliant teens with no access to laptops or mentors. I've seen adults with 3 jobs still choosing between rent and groceries." Her voice steadied. "If this initiative is really about community, then you need someone who understands the people you want to reach, someone who's lived it." Silence spread through the room like snowfall. Marlene's expression softened, just a fraction. Another board member cleared his throat. "She makes valid points," Harold beamed. "I knew she would." After the meeting, Kesha stepped into the hallway, breath shaking with relief. David patted her back. "You crushed it." Harold walked up beside her. "You didn't just crush it, you proved exactly why you belong here." Kesha smiled, small but full of pride. And in that moment she realized something. She didn't need to fit in. She was born to stand out. Her life had changed the second she chose compassion in a crowded train station. And now, her future stretched out wide and bright, filled with possibility and purpose. Kesha kept growing in her role, helping shape programs that touched thousands of lives. Jamal graduated with honors. And Harold? He lived his final years grateful not just for the woman who saved him, but for the woman who saved his company's soul. Because sometimes a single act of kindness doesn't just change one life, it changes many. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful stories, and share it with someone who still believes kindness can change the world. Your support helps us bring you more life-changing tales every day. Watch the next story of kindness, where a black student misses her exam to help a stranger and wakes up to a helicopter in her yard. Her kindness was quiet, but the reward was louder than she ever imagined.